Welcome to the show, everybody. It's episode 79. Aden Richards. What's happening?
Not much. Back to work. Now, Lorton, you were kind of absent over the weekend in the Discord. Weren't watching many of the games with us. So where were you when you were watching that grand finals?
Oh, my God, Aden. I was camping. Do you like camping?
It's all right. I mean, as long as I don't have to sleep there.
That's roughly how I feel. No, dude. So my wife loves to make fun of me for having expensive hobbies. Although Dota does not count as an expensive hobby, but like I do have other expensive hobbies.
Depends on who you are.
It's true. Yeah, for your brother, it's a super expensive hobby because he buys every motherfucking chest.
Yeah. He and total side note, guys. Both my brother and Adam Corton, our old producer, they both gifted me all of like a bunch of rare immortals, and I can't re-gift them. So I now have like doubles of all the rares. It's really awkward. It's like, God damn it, guys.
Nice.
Yeah. Anyways.
Oh yeah. So my wife is like, well, unlike your hobbies, camping is cheap. And to her point, the campsite we went to was only $10 per tent. So, but let's dig into that for just a second here, Aden. Camping is cheap. As long as you forget that you have to buy and store an entire second home. And of course, your second home has to be lightweight and portable, which makes it more expensive. And of course, you have to pack your second home into the car. And so if you're going to fit everything, you got to spend hours folding your shit up, nesting it into, nesting a bowl into a pot and the pot into a Tupperware, and then staring at your car trunk, wondering if there's an alternative configuration that would work better. I took a day off work for this, by the way, but are we factoring that into the cost of camping? No, of course not. Then after you spend hours packing, driving to the campsite, then of course you spend the next few hours unpacking, unnesting your shit, assembling your second home. You're all set up just in time to go to bed and get a horrible fucking night's sleep because you're sharing a tent with your toddlers. The temperature goes from 76 degrees at bedtime to an overnight low of 42. The children fucking revolt at 4 a.m. Everybody piles into the air mattress, which of course by this point is mostly deflated, leaving me exposed to the nighttime air because everybody else needs the covers. Obviously, in that situation, I'm the first to wake up. I can't move because my son is sleeping on me. So luckily, this is like the one saving grace of this campsite. I had LTE data. So I ran up a fuck of a bill this month by streaming TI from 4 a.m. to 7:30 a.m. while everybody else was sleeping.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
Go ahead.
I was gonna say I only heard like 40% of that because this is the first time we've been doing this over video, really, and I didn't realize you spent all of the podcast talking with your hands. All right? That is new information to me, and it's hilarious.
Yes, I do that. Yeah.
Anyways, continue.
Oh yeah, no. So I wake up. My friends were like, "Yeah, we'll take care of the coffee." Of course, they're the last ones to wake up. And then, obviously, some amazing times were had in the freezing cold water, in the baking sun. And then it was time to pack up. So just a simple matter of taking apart the second home, shaking out a metric ton of sand, re-nesting everything into its storage containers. Simple matter of keeping the kids out of the fire while you try to scrape the burned green beans off your mother-in-law's borrowed camp stove. Simple matter of squeezing every little thing back into the car, including the bag of trash that's too big for the campsite's bear-proof trash bins to handle. Just like that, back home. All you have to do when you're back home, of course, is unload the car, clean all your camping gear, bathe your children, wash the 3 loads of laundry you created doing this shit, and make dinner. Perfect end to a relaxing weekend. Wouldn't you say, Aden?
I can only hope that Jason can just like speed you up by 50% for that rant. Well, it sounds lovely, nonetheless.
Right. So I didn't watch the grand finals live. As a matter of fact, you called me. I don't know, 16 hours after the grand finals were over, and the first thing I said when I picked up the phone was, I was like, "Don't tell me anything. I still haven't watched it."
Fair. Wow.
Yes.
Delightful.
I have since watched the grand finals.
Yes. All right. That was wonderful. But yeah, so if you want to hear those stories not that long, or at least be able to skip them in text form, you can join our Discord. We had a pretty active debate. We've been talking about the shuffle lately. The easiest way to do it is to go to glimpsepod.com. There's a link at the top of the page. If you want to follow us on Twitter, I'm at Omega Man Dota. I had some fun 10-word team recaps for each day of the International. And you can Lorton at Shark Butler. He's got a bunch of hero value charts up there that you can probably figure out if you spend 10 to 15 minutes trying to figure out what they mean on your own. You also can get merch for the Glimpse. We have GSL group stages are dumb. Yeah.
Oh, fuck yeah, Aiden. Model it. Work it, baby. For those of you listening on audio, Aiden is, oh my God, he's turning in a shirt. Oh, he's showing you the back of the shirt with the Glimpse logo.
Yeah. And we also have Why Bother Winning if you're not going to get a Mercedes. You can get them at glimpsepod.com. They're available in the US and Europe plus Australia. You can also specify if you want the money to go straight to audio engineer Jason for all the work that he does. All right, Lorton. Typically, after TI, we've had one episode. What are we doing this time?
2 episodes.
That's correct.
So this is our first of 2 TI9 analyses. TI9 Shanghai in the books. 193 matches played. More than a few tears shed on the main stage. And a repeat champion crowned. So in this episode, we're going to name 3 teams of the tournament. Aiden is going to backseat shot call 2 high ground throws. Extreme throws, by the way. Backed by popular demand, we're going to play the blame game / acclaim game. By the way, great branding by you, Aiden.
Also, guys, we're bringing it back because we immediately got Discord feedback. If there's a segment you want more of, come find us in the Discord.
Yeah, it only takes one comment to make this basically an every episode thing.
Yeah, we don't get a ton of feedback, so we take the tiny bit we get very seriously.
Very seriously. So we start this episode in Shanghai, China, where a roaring crowd gave an impassioned salute to some amazing Dota, Aiden. It only took us 9 TIs to get a repeat champion, and against all odds, we got 5 repeat champions. So, Aiden, should we recap the news?
I think we should.
Please
OG1.
Begin. Spoiler
alert. Yeah, so OG1, they came in. We considered them to be a middle of the pack team. Maybe you a little higher than that, but certainly out of the top 6 and not in the bottom 6. So middle tier, right?
To our defense, we had always considered them high variance.
That's true. So we actually had a question on Twitter from, I hope the pronunciation, Kevin Cleary. He wrote to me saying, how wrong were you about OG? And
a legit question.
About as wrong as you could be. The only other alternative was them getting last place, because if I had them right in the middle, that's pretty much the 2 ends of the value there.
Although less wrong about OG than we were last year. This year we acknowledged that this team has TI winning upside because by definition they had done it before.
Correct. The other thing I want to comment on about OG here is that I said OG had very little, almost no chance. I think I may have even said exactly no chance of winning. That obviously was dumb. But I prefaced that by saying the way Topson is playing at Epicenter and even at MDL, OG have no chance of winning. There's no way he can win. And Topson turned from a below replacement level mid at Epicenter to, I would argue, the MVP of the tournament.
No argument here. Topson was amazing. Spoiler alert for our team of the tournament, by the way.
Yeah, so I guess the question is, if we sat there and we said to ourselves on, VP, we're going to replace no one with the no one from 1.5 years ago when VP won 2 majors in a row, then, are we surprised if maybe they get second place instead of tied for 9th? No, we're not. That's a massive change. Right. So I guess, I was 100% wrong. I didn't think Topson was capable of going there, but I was correct in the sense that he had to do something. He had to be much, much better for them to have a chance.
Yeah, you called him their success limiting factor, and suddenly he stopped limiting their success.
Yeah. So I have a sort of an interesting thought here. So one of the things, most interesting things about OG, first, so we're going to get into some of the exactly what happened, how they went, but reality is that the basic line is that OG kicked everyone's ass.
Dude, yeah, they were the best team in the group stage, and then they dropped three games on the main stage.
Yeah, so they kicked everyone's ass. There's not like a turning point. There's no like really. True. There's no narrative here other than OG were better than everybody else.
Yes.
Consistently, they had some cheese. They had some not cheese. They beat everybody. One of the most fascinating things is that OG, and I think this is something to sort of pay attention to in the future. Not because I think it's indicative of anything, but out of curiosity. So OG played a style of Dota that was not to be, or at TI9 that was unlike what other teams were playing. They played this comeback game, late game, when everyone was playing a sort of, the other good teams were playing this early game aggressive style, right?
Yes.
It wasn't quite as pronounced as it was as the direction, but this year they zigged the other direction, right? They went,
and I would argue much higher degree of difficulty with what they did this year.
Yeah, they went extreme early game. Not okay. Maybe early games, not the same, but
they went extreme
early
pressure.
Mid-game.
Is what I would call.
Yes, they went early mid. They went early mid game timings.
Yeah,
and they won. They had the shortest game lengths at TI. Okay, like that's a shocking turnaround, and I don't even know if it's like unfathomable, but like I can't imagine any other team changing their entire like sort of method, like their approach to the game in a year. But they did it, and they were just as good at it. And it especially happened when
they were better at it.
Yeah, they were better, much better at it. It's fair. So that was shy. So just a couple of stats to confirm that, and also something interesting that I wasn't expecting. So first of all, OG highest kills plus deaths per minute, 1.5 kills and
14 kills for every 10 deaths.
But also they were doing it really fast. Like the next highest team, 1.33. Okay, that gap is not as big as the gap between the second team and like the last place team, because here's TNC's was really low, but like it's definitely bigger than the gap between them and the second place team is bigger than the gap between them and like the 12th place team in terms of kills plus deaths per minute.
Yeah.
Now, I looked at that, and one of the things I decided I was going to do is I was going to look at, but the second place team was infamous, which shouldn't shock anyone, I think, if you watch their games. I looked at something, and I was trying to I was looking at that, and I was also trying to tease out group versus main event differences. Because I thought there was a chance that some of the teams, not OG, I thought OG's numbers would be very similar. They dominated both. I thought some teams like Liquid might have very different numbers, and I thought maybe we could tease out what changed. Instead, what I saw was that kills and deaths per minute went way down across the board.
On the main stage?
On the main stage. OG's kills plus deaths per minute at on the group stage, 1.65. They were the top, obviously.
Yeah.
OG on the main stage, 1.31. Okay, the next next highest team that played more than one game was Infamous, 1.22 on the main event. In the group stage, they were, looking for here, 1.37. So just across the board, everyone went down. And I wonder if that's because the meta developed, or if that's just like the main stage don't want to make mistakes style.
Yeah, I saw a little bit of both, and like as you were telling the OG story, where they exploited the comeback mechanic last year, it was interesting to me to observe that the teams that were successful in the lower bracket runs, and I'm talking about Liquid and Secret here, both relied on late game comebacks to win a lot of their games. And so it was kind of interesting to see that contrast of styles. The Liquid would come in and try to play the OG TI9 game and then get fucked by OG TI9.
Absolutely. So that was one theme of like that I was sort of, is that this OG timing play.
But it's partially about timing, but it's also about the constant pressure and the ability to sustain, having the low cooldowns, having the regen to make that pressure possible without taking a break.
Sure. And so a couple things played into that. First off, picks. Tiny, I think, actually, Alchemist was like the defining group stage pick, I would say.
Mm-hmm.
Right, Hero? Tiny became, I believe, the defining main event hero. Would you agree with that?
I would. Well, and he was in an interesting place because there were heroes that you felt like you had to ban ahead of Tiny, so Tiny got into so many games.
Right, and you could played in 3 positions, but the reality is that why was Tiny good? He was mostly good in Thompson's hand. Part of it's because of the Oggs, although you saw we also dominate with Tiny a couple times. But part of the reason he was so good was because we saw Thompson in particular playing a style of mid play we haven't seen for like 4 years, which is do you remember in pubs like long ago where it would be like mid doesn't rotate, like GG mid isn't rotating.
Yeah. This is in the like TI2 and 3 Pudge mid days.
Even a little later than that. I would say even up to like TI5, maybe TI5.
Well, but that pub meta was a holdover from the pro meta of TI2.
That's fair. And all of a sudden Thompson's bringing it back. I mean, Thompson and both of them, they would get Tiny to like level like 7 or 8 where they could burst people, and then they were just never in lane.
Oh yeah, the number of 4 positions I saw just camping in the middle lane at 9 minutes, it was higher than I've seen it in so long.
Right. So there in other teams didn't do that until they saw OG doing it.
Yes.
So they brought Tiny in, and then of course we're going to talk about IO here. We got to talk about IO. They carry IO, which I think came out of nowhere. I don't know if you have any inkling of that coming.
No,
I mean I know that
very surprising. And but like you mentioned cheese, and I want to know if you think this is cheese, because it's cheese in the sense that we've never seen it before, but like it just seems like a build that no one had ever considered.
So yeah, I mean I think so the problem with cheese is that cheese implies an all-in strategy. That,
yes.
Like if it fails badly. We didn't really see it fail, so.
Well, Secret tried to do it against
Secret
Liquid.
tried to do it, okay. But we didn't see OG fail with it.
Yes.
Secondly, it's not. I find it hard to define it as cheese if they're picking it in the first phase, which they did a couple times.
Yeah.
Like, that's not
cheese. No, cheese
like,
is Techie's pick 22.
Yeah, or Broodmother or Telstar pick 22 or Meepo 22. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But if you're picking it first phase, I think it definitely doesn't feel like cheese.
Yeah.
So I had a thought about this. So actually, I wrote an email to Lorton maybe exactly a week ago.
Yeah.
And so I want to talk really about this in context. I didn't watch every IO carry game, so this is universally true. The 2 things that made IO core so powerful, the first is that the incredible magic damage you get when you have Oggs and the
level 15 talent. Yeah.
In fact, really the level 15 talent. The Oggs helps too, but level 15 talent is huge. That's massive. But the second thing is that IO has been a top tier hero for a long time, in and out of the meta, and the way you deal with IO is really well known. There's a couple ways. One is you use Glimpse to try and separate the 2 of them. Mm-hmm. The second is that you try and blow the IO up so that then you can kill the IO partner, or whatever, right? So the baseline of this strategy, and you can see it most apparent, I think, in the Thompson mid Bristleback game where they ran over. I think it was VP. No, was it VP?
No, it couldn't have been VP.
It wasn't in the groups. No, I think that was in the group stage. I think it was VP in the group stage.
You could be right.
Yeah. They ran over him, and that was depressing. But also, no, you're right. It was newbie on the main stage, wasn't it? It was newbie on the main stage. Yeah. They also ran over VP with it, but separate issue is that Bristleback and these heroes, when Bristleback is virtually unkillable, and Bristleback's a great IO partner for years, but the problem is that the way you made Bristleback killable was you killed IO.
Yes.
And IO at 25 minutes when Bristleback is hitting his peak and when OG is using him, IO is very killable. IO might have a mech, best case scenario.
Right, a Glimmer Cape maybe.
Yeah, something like that. Very killable.
Yeah.
Instead, IO has 12,000, 10,000 net worth. Maybe not quite the heart yet, but everything else you would expect from him. And all of a sudden you can't kill the IO. And if you can't kill the IO, you definitely can't kill the Bristleback. So that was sort of my takeaway, was this whole idea of they figured out that it wasn't the downside of IO was its squishiness, and that's how the hero had been balanced.
Yeah.
You make it a squishy support. Well, what if you don't make that assumption?
Yeah. Well, and the Helm of the Dominator, so you don't have to buy boots, I thought was super interesting too, because you get the move speed from the creep, and then you also get the tankiness from the Helm of the Dominator.
Yeah, that part's brilliant. That of all things is one of those the whole point of giving Io the move speed thing was so he could like catch up to like other heroes who were faster and keep up with them. And then like it was not meant for the Io, the Helm of the Dominator nonsense. But I mean, like that's the thing about Dota, right? I mean, most of the great strategies are essentially unintended things.
Yes.
Fountain hooking, right?
Right. Well, even Luna support.
Or how about just the Chen having 4 magic resistance creeps? Like that was not what we intended with Chen, but that's what we do. So anyways, OG was fucking awesome. They were the best team.
Yeah.
Top to bottom, beginning to end.
What was the most entertaining series on the main stage that you saw?
That's a good question. I'm looking back at the graph here.
I mean,
I would say probably the Liquid LGD series.
Liquid LGD was excellent. I will also nominate TNC versus Vici Gaming round 1.
Yeah, so I didn't watch that one live.
Oh, okay.
So I didn't have the same feel for it.
All
but
right,
that one had some epic games. You could also throw EG Secret. Maybe you don't want to talk about that one, but it was a pretty close series.
You're talking about Liquid Secret?
No, EG Secret. That was a good series too. I mean, yeah, it was the start of some disappointing things that happened that are going to end with mid one getting kicked, which is just a tragedy to me because that dude loves playing with Puppy and he's so good. But we not talking. Reshuffle this episode. We're keeping it away from this.
Like, by the time this episode comes out, like it's going to be publicly acknowledged. Anyway,
yeah, fair.
No, you could see it in their body language that mid one was out. Like, it sucks.
Yeah. All right. Any last thoughts on OG here? I mean, other than that, holy crap, they're good.
Well, there's a stat you'll be able to see in the packet here, Aden. Mid one, sorry, still thinking about mid one here. Thompson picked up a diffusal blade on gyrocopter, and everybody in the game said that was a pretty rare move. And so I went ahead and did the research to see how rare it was. And dating back to patch 7.00, that'd be the advent of talents. And was that, 2 years ago? A year and a half ago?
2 years.
Yeah, 2 years ago. Dating back to patch 7.00, gyro has been picked 1,200 times in competitive play. And in those 1,200 gyrocopter games, has bought Diffusal Blade 5 times.
That's outstanding. I mean, so look, I mean, that's just a further example of like the OG is not saying, is asking themselves fundamental questions like, why is IO a support?
Yeah.
Why don't we buy Diffusal in this on this
exactly.
hero?
Need to burn this guy's mana.
We're just they're ignoring sort of convention,
orthodoxy,
and that's awesome. Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah.
And by the way, I'm not necessarily saying that like they're doing it from a place of being really smart,
expertise. Yeah,
your 3K MMR friend you're playing with is not doing it from that place. Not saying they shouldn't do it at all, but like
you need 3 null tallies on Wraith King, bro.
Your results may vary. That's what I'm saying.
May vary widely. This is a high variance team that does high variance shit.
Yeah.
All right. OG. I won't step on that. You want to do the blame game, acclaim game?
Let's do the blame game, acclaim game. Then we'll do a high ground after that.
Okay. So I had some teams that I thought neither deserved blame nor acclaim, and I know you're going to veto a couple of these, but I'll tell you who I thought performed around expectations.
All right, so hold on.
Yeah,
let's specify this. We did blame and acclaim game for the group stage. This is mostly focused on...
This is the main event.
This is main event blame and acclaim.
For sure. Na'Vi, they finished 13-16. I did not think... I thought that was exactly where we would have expected, if not a little better.
It's hard to blame a team for losing a best of one.
Agreed. Keen Gaming, same story. Alliance, same story. Mineski, they lost to Team Secret in a very competitive match. If anything, they should be getting acclaim.
Yeah, but also they got there by winning a best of one again.
Agreed. Vici Gaming finished top 6. What do you say, Aiden?
I think there's some blame to go there.
Why? Just because you picked them to win the tournament doesn't mean they were gonna be in the grand finals, bro.
No, we'll get to why. But if no one no one on Reddit is out there being like, man, Keen Gaming, like who should get kicked from that team for like sucking? Like the answer is all of them. But people are on Vici. People are like, there's a reason why people are on like Reddit talking about who fucked up from Vici.
Yeah.
Right? Because there's some blame to go there.
We can give some blame to Vici Gaming.
We get some blame there.
I also thought EG deserves no blame nor acclaim. They finished top 6. I mean, sure, they would have liked to do better. Team Secret, I mean, I'm throwing a shitload of blame around like in my private conversations with you, but they finished 4th, best finish ever at TI for a Team Secret.
Look, they went 2-2 on the main stage. That's like, it's not great, but it's not like a disaster, right?
Yeah, they're 2-2 in series. You're talking about?
Yeah, series. Yeah.
Yeah, you're fine. LGD Gaming, they were the TI runners-up last year. They were 3rd place this year. Pretty darn good. And honestly, they performed better than Vici Gaming, so I thought they deserve neither blame nor acclaim. They played well.
I would agree overall they do not deserve blame or acclaim. Beyond the group stage, which was fantastic. I think we can ask a very narrow question. What is to blame for them not making the grand finals? They lost 2 series they had a 1-0 lead in. And I think that's a relevant question. That's a very specific, narrow question, but who is to blame for that specific failure?
Well, let's go straight to LGD then.
Okay.
Because you're right. They were fucking dominating Team Liquid in that lower bracket final. Mm-hmm. They won game 1 easily. This was the Ame Spectre and maybe Gyrocopter. Nobody played Gyrocopter better than maybe this tournament, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. I have a little. God, what was I gonna do? A slight thing I'm gonna talk about VP, but there was a stark difference in Maybe's ability to farm with Gyrocopter.
Yes.
And any other mid player who played Gyrocopter, and there were a number of them. They just didn't like. Maybe was constantly ahead of keeping up, and other mid players like they were not, and it's unclear why. And I don't have time to go back and study and see exactly what the fuck they were doing, but not doing it right.
And by mentioning the lower bracket final, I skipped ahead of the upper bracket final where LGD with some amazing FY Lion, they jumped ahead to a 1-0 lead over OG. Putting themselves in pole position for that grand final, only to get fucked by 2 consecutive Chen Alchemists.
They won the first game both those series with maybe Gyrocopter. It was in both cases. I didn't realize you had skipped ahead.
Yeah.
It was both time.
You are absolutely correct. All right. So what is to blame, Aden, for LGD dropping 2 straight games after being up 1-0 in both those series?
I'm gonna hedge my bets a little bit here. I think the blame is FY and 357, the coach.
Yeah.
Okay. So first off, losing to OG, you won game 1 in a relatively tight but well played game. Mm-hmm. Well done. I mean, tight but well played. Game 2, you forget that Chen plus Alchemist was awesome because Alchemist amplifies the heal, and you give it to them, and then you don't pressure Ana at all in that game, and guess what? You get your shit kicked out of you. So what do you do in game 3? You give up Chen and Alchemist again, whose fucking plan was that? It's a bad plan. Don't do it.
That was a drafting error. There's no question.
So that's the other thing. But also, I mean, just simply, so FY is the captain of this team.
Yeah.
And I don't know who shot calls, because like one of the things we know is that not all captains are shot callers. Mm-hmm. In fact, at different parts of the game, different players shot call.
Yes.
Oftentimes in the late game, we know that carries shot call.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know what it is. But at the same time, it's FY's job to, when the team is doing something glaringly big picture wrong, it might not be his job to be like, jump him, whatever now.
Yeah.
When his team is doing something strategically big picture wrong or being too excited, that is on the captain to deal with that. And they didn't, he had no plan to deal with the Ana Ana Alchemist in the first game on there. He, I think, is to blame, at least has not gotten the blame that I think he deserves for the way they lost to Liquid in game 2 of that series.
Well, yeah, we're going to devote an entire segment of this episode to that, but I mean, it was a series of shot calling errors and wimpy high ground decisions.
Yeah. So I'm going FY.
Yep, I concur. All right, who's next in the blame game? And we probably ought to speed this up just.
All right,
a
let's
smidge.
go. Let's go. Vici Gaming.
Vici Gaming. All right, so what was the problem with Vici Gaming?
So I mean, they just went out with a whimper. I mean, this is a team like there's no shame in losing to LGD and losing to Secret, but they capitulated. They had 2 close-ish games against LGD and lost them.
But those games
Not
never
huge
looked
fan.
seriously in doubt.
No, not really.
And the
they
Team
tried to
Secret
hit
games were both under 25 minutes. So I mean, I
They
agree
were
with that. That was
shit shows.
capitulation.
I mean, that's a team that had the season that they did.
Yes.
To get knocked out to lose 4 straight games, 2 of them, none of which really seemed like they were going to win, and 2 of them were absolute stomps, is a pretty bad look. Yeah, pretty bad look. I'm going to go with that as my argument there. And honestly, I don't know. Do you have an answer?
Well, I mean, so Fade is the one who is retiring. He's threatening to retire from the game because of how he dishonored his country. You and I don't know what was going on in the communications of that team, but maybe it's Fade's fault.
I really don't know, but there's somebody needs to be blamed. I don't know if it's ROTK. I mean, I think the coach probably has something to do with it.
Well, I mean, is he not accountable for everything that goes on with that team? Accountable.
I think he should be. And I mean, I think more for the second game series.
Yeah.
But, the way they got stomped they looked really like they had no idea what they were going to do and no plan against Secret. So I'm going to go with ROTK, but that's a low confidence blame.
Yeah.
It could turn out, if we find other information, it may be that it was somebody else's fault, but ROTK is a much bigger presence on his team than any other coach, I think.
Yes.
Right? And rightly or wrongly, that means he's going to get a lot more of the credit and a lot more of the blame.
No question. And I mean, Vici Gaming, their first round matchup was against TNC, and I know you didn't see that series, but it was a fucking clash of the Titans. I mean, both of those teams looked incredibly high level, and so to see both of them exit quickly after that, both for some semi-legitimate reasons. Even so, it was kind of disappointing after the round 1 series they had.
So let's talk about TNC. Let's do it next, right?
Cool. So first of all, TNC, they got knocked out in the lower bracket by Liquid. I feel like there's no shame, there's no blame to be assigned for losing to the eventual TI runners-up.
Right. They are. I'm in agreement here. I'm going to say no blame for TNC. You look at it.
Hold on. However,
I was going to say no blame. So they finished they finished tied for 9th.
Yes.
They lost to Vici and Liquid.
Yes, that Vici Gaming series. I have no issue with. Well, game 1 was just a thriller. By the way, game 1 was a thriller that they won. With some typical TNC late game ancient apparition shenanigans, and I loved it. Game 2 was a very similar situation. It was a late game TNC thing, and they lost it. And then game 3, they tried to get cute, and they last picked a Broodmother.
Oh, that was bad. Yeah.
Yeah, they tried to do a mid-game timing lineup, and mid-game timing lineups are not TNC's bread and butter. And like when you're on the main stage, I feel like that was certainly overreaching. That was an extreme drafting error, and I put that one on Heen because I don't think Heen was clicking the heroes, but Heen needs to be the one to say, you guys are overthinking this. Why don't we do what we do?
That's fair, but having one bad draft in 5 games is not like that happens.
No, right. TNC performed way better than their top 12 finish indicates. Yeah. And to me, if you're going to blame anything for that, it's that game 3 draft against Vici Gaming.
Or you could blame Liquid, the fact that Liquid was shit in the group stage and they met him there. But all right, who do you have next?
Well, I'm going to save your boys VP for last. So let's talk quickly about Newbie. Newbie started out upper bracket, and then they made a very rapid exit, losing first to OG, pretty defensible, and then losing to Infamous, a team from South America, Aden.
Yeah, yes, they were from South America. So you know what? All right, so there's a little bit of blame. CCNC had a much rougher group stage or main event than he had group stage. Mm-hmm. But the reality is I'm going to go with no blame here.
Yeah.
All right. This is actually, it's funny because they had the same players. So maybe there's blame in terms of coaching and like grand strategy. Newbie like VCJ of last year came into the tournament, and they had identified some heroes that were stronger than expected. Heroes like Gyrocopter, like Mirana, like Beastmaster, and that was their shot.
Mm-hmm.
They shot that shot, and it got them to the upper bracket. And then Infamous, for example, banned those 3 heroes first phase. Like, you're not doing that against anybody else. You're doing it because those are the heroes that Newbie got away with. Like OG, they banned Mirana and Gyrocopter. They didn't also ban what was the other hero?
Beastmaster, right?
Beastmaster.
Yeah.
Yeah, they banned Mirana and Gyrocopter. Like, again, who was getting Mirana banned first phase? Like, you shot your shot. You're not that good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
All right. Last, Fnatic. Fnatic had a top 3 finish this DPC season. We've already talked about them to an extent, but they made lower bracket and then got fucked by Team Liquid. Who's to blame for Fnatic's performance?
Again, I don't think anyone's to blame for their performance. They they actually outperformed themselves slightly in the group stage. I thought what I expected for them, and they got fucked by Liquid. Like, hard to blame a team for getting fucked by Liquid.
No, the only thing that I came up with for them was Jabs. I mean, we were curious about how Jabs would perform as a carry, and Jabs performed not awesome.
Sure.
Among all 1 and 2 position players, among qualifying 1 and 2 position players, he was 28th in deaths, 28th in GPM, 30th in experience per minute. Couldn't find a hero besides Naga Siren he could play at an elite level. So that to me was one of the problems going on with Fnatic.
Sure. Universal problem, not really a main stage problem though.
Oh yes, no question.
Sure.
All right, moving on. Virtus Pro. I mean, well, sorry, I didn't mean to overstep here, Aiden. Do you think there's any blame to be assigned after Virtus Pro's performance?
I mean, is there more blame to be assigned to them than there was after the group stage? It's actually different blame. So interestingly enough,
so what happened quickly?
VP decided they were going to draft heroes that would win the lanes, and they won the lanes, and then they didn't know what to do with themselves after that, or their lineup no longer synergized after the lanes, and they got their shit wrecked,
resulting in an 0-2 to LGD, and then an 0-2.
No shame there, no shame at all.
No, LGD was a better team, no question. And then they lost to Royal Never Give Up, who they were never given an opportunity to give up. They just won the game.
If I had to blame somebody for this, so they essentially took a different approach to drafting, which I appreciate them trying, even though it didn't work out. They said, okay, we're going to do everything we can to make our lanes better, and they did, and they won them in most of those games, or at least were close, unlike losing. But I'm going to give a little bit of blame to no one. No one played Gyro and Storm in against RNG, and with neither of those heroes did he... Like, he had okay starts, especially in the Gyro game. He had a great start, number 1 at net worth at 10 minutes. And he parlayed it into nothing. Just nothing. Like, a
couple of very rough deaths in that game, too.
You can't do that. Like, come on now. If you are ahead with Gyrocopter, look what Maybe does. Maybe stays ahead. Maybe, like, wrecks people with that Gyrocopter that he's now ahead with. You went from being, I'm looking now, number 1 farm again at 10 minutes. Again, doing really well. And by 20 minutes, you're number 3. By 25 minutes, you're barely number 3. I mean, like, and by the way, when I say they're like at number 25 minutes, you're number 3, you're like 3,000 behind the top people, right? So that's pretty bad. I don't know. It just was not like he had no effect on the game after the laning stage, and you just can't do it. So, yeah, I'm gonna go there.
Fair enough. So I go a different direction here. It's these supports, dude. Roger and Solo, last among all qualifying supports in assists per game. Roger second to last, and Roger last and Solo second to last in assists per game.
It's rough.
Among 24 supports on the main stage. Quiz for you, Aiden. If you stack up all the supports, what is the best either Roger or Solo ranks in any individual stat category? Now I have to pull it up. And this would be
I'm gonna assume
among the
Rogers
24 qualifying
supports.
4 and 5 positions.
24. So you're talking just main state, or just the ones that had a certain number of games?
Yeah. Everybody who made top 12.
Okay. I'm gonna assume Rogers' GPM was like not at the bottom because there was other position 5. So maybe like I don't know that the best was he was like 18th out of 24.
You're.
Am I underselling?
You're underselling him a little bit. 15th out of 24 in GPM.
All right.
And yeah, he was like, I think he was 18th in fewest deaths per game.
Yeah. Okay. It's not good.
No.
How the mighty, the truly mighty supports have fallen.
Yeah, no question about it.
All right.
Anyway, nothing good going on with VP.
Can we talk about some good teams?
I feel like just a few more minutes on VP, dude.
Fuck you.
JK.
All right. Let's get some acclaim out there. So again, we're not going to give it to OG because we already spent 20 minutes making them
slurping
feel
OG.
good
Yeah, we got it.
Yeah, sure. I got 3 of them, Lorton. So let's start with Liquid. Who earns the acclaim for their lower bracket run?
I don't have a good answer for you here because they just like had the composure of an experienced team. So I mean, Miracle did what he was supposed to do. Wee's stats I thought were excellent. It's tough to disentangle, a team this good. It's tough to disentangle who was doing what right. Kuro's stats were surprisingly good. And so I give the credit to Kuro for lack of a better recipient because they drafted well, they made good decisions in game, and Kuro himself played well.
I think it is entirely fair that when you have a team who just everyone starts playing better on, that the credit go to the captain and even RMN, the coach, a little bit too.
Yeah. By the way, Roman, one of the 5 people out of the 1,200 gyrocopter games to also build Diffusal Blade.
That's a stat right there.
Fucking A.
All right, let's talk Infamous. So Infamous went from a okay group stage, not great, but okay, better than expected, to a lower bracket run that involved them beating Keen, Newbie, and then losing to Team Secret, finishing top 8. I'm sure the first South American team to finish top 8 at the International. Who gets the credit for that?
I give it to Hector. I mean, this is kind of lazy analysis because Hector was a great carry. And Aiden's shaking his head. I can see him on the camera. Aiden hates this call of Hector. But a couple of things I saw from Hector. First of all, do you know what Wraith King's record on the main stage was?
I'm pretty sure you actually told me this at some point, and I've already forgotten. I don't know.
I did tell you midway through
I
did tell you midway through the tournament. Everyone playing Wraith King who is not Hector, 2 wins and 7 losses on the hero. Hector 3-0 on Wraith King. And what I also observed from Hector was him changing up his build. It wasn't just like I always go Midas into Radiance. He was changing up his build depending on the pace of the game. All right,
you go there.
Begin.
It's fine. Let me pull up Hector's stats here just so I can at that. Hector is supposedly in demand by some high level teams, so you would think that like that
number 1 in GPM on the main stage.
Sure. And you know why he's number 1 in GPM on the main stage? Because he doesn't have to do a goddamn thing to help his team as they wreck it like that. You know what his stats were? He averaged 5 kills a game, 3.55 deaths, and under 7 assists. He's involved in less than 12 kills a game this tournament. He's not doing anything. Of course you can have like great GPM if you never have to do anything. All right? This is entirely... Chris Luck is a great farmer, but you know who could be a great farmer in a game where the rest of your team creates an incredible space for you? Every pro player. Farming is a skill. Like 100%. I'm not saying it's not a skill. It is a much easier skill. It is a skill that every pro player can reach if their team makes them a ridiculous space. Okay? No, Chris Luck has to get this. You know what? How many kills a game he averaged in the group stage at 20 minutes?
Tell me.
2.36. How many group kills a game do you think he averaged in the main event at 20 minutes?
I guess it was higher.
4.5. All right.
That's a lot.
He nearly doubles it. If you saw the game where they beat Newbie, was that the Slark game? I think it was he played Slark against them, Slark mid. In the deciding game. All right. I haven't seen a Slark take over the 10 to 20 minutes. Like Slark, it's like you got to get Midas, you got to get Echo Saber, you got to get Shadow Blade, or you got to get Diffusal, whatever they're getting, everything like that. And they come online around 25 minutes, and they're really strong. Chris Luck was making space as a mid Slark from 10 to 20 minutes, and it absolutely dominated Newbie. All right? They couldn't get, he was just camped on their side of the map. Hector had the entire side of his map undeterred because Chris Luck was doing work. All right? So you can sit there and say, Hector, great job killing those jungle creeps. Or you can say, Chris Luck, way to go for making it so Hector can do whatever the fuck he wants. And I know which way I'm going on this.
Love the call, Aiden. Great analysis by you.
All right. Who do we got next?
I think we did it, dude.
Don't we have RNG? We got RNG.
Oh, RNG. Oh, yeah.
That was easy.
This is easy for me, too.
It's Monet.
Oh, okay.
Monet showed the fuck up. Oh, you got something different?
Oh well, please. Yeah. I mean, it's the tournament draw. They got Alliance and VP. They got super fucking lucky.
Okay, hold on. Alliance was not bad.
No, and Alliance were extremely competitive in that game. That was way harder than the VP games.
Hold on. RNG beat 2 teams that finished 8-8 in the group stage, basically. All right, that's not nothing. All right, that's
true.
Like a lot of teams failed to do that. All right, they beat 2 middle of the pack teams. All right, and you know they did because Monet showed the fuck up. All right, this guy was a great carry with LGDFY at TI9, and last year I don't even remember what team he was on, but I couldn't have been bothered to. They clearly weren't good enough for me to notice. What team was he on last year?
All right, now let's look it up.
We have to. Holy shit, what team was he on?
Some sequences have been shortened thanks to audio engineer Jason.
Still on? Was he still on? Did
he might have been on,
exist all of last year?
Yeah, I think he might have been on LFY last year.
Yeah, okay. LGDFY still existed last year. God, who knew? Anyways, you know what this guy did? He went from averaging 4.75 kills, 4 deaths, and 8 assists per game to 8 under 3 and 9.6. He went from having 3.8 net worth at 10 minutes to having 4.4 net worth on average. All right, those are important changes. The man carried his team. You can't ask for a carry. He was not carrying his team in the group stage. All right, when you switch from being a not carry to a carry, and your team does better, you deserve some credit.
Very good.
All right, let's talk some. You ready to talk some high? Oh, should we take a break?
Yeah, let's take a break. Do you have a sponsor read for us?
I do. Lorton, I have great news. We at The Glimpse now have the privilege of being sponsored by Axe Beard Stimulant. No, not those primped and pampered body spray manufacturers. We're talking about the real deal. Blink Dagger and all. All right, Lorton, they guarantee that men who can't grow a beard and take this elixir will soon grow a luxurious mane just like Axe has.
Dude, I am the target market for this.
Yeah, don't take our word for it. Lorton has yet to, see any results, but he might be a hopeless case. Instead, you need to, if you want to see what we've done or what Axe has done, I want to be associated with them. I know I'm not actually, but I want to be. All right. Look at Sumail. All right. He had the beard stimulant for just 1 month. If you saw him in that Dust of Appearances video, okay, you can see that he is now the proud grower of a full coverage and luxurious black beard. Okay. The blank stare and inability to speak is a known but uncommon side effect. I don't know about you, Lorton, but I wish I could grow a beard like Sumail had, and now you can too.
He's 16 years younger than I am.
Okay, if you go to axebeardstimulant.com and enter the promo code GlimpsePod, you'll get a 1-month supply of Axe Beard Stimulant for the introductory price of 50 gold coins. Conversion rates may vary.
Oh, you know what you need to add to this? Maybe Jason can put in the real clip, but you need to add, what happened? Axe happened!
Oh, yes! Absolutely. Also, if you could just clip in Sumail's blank face from that video.
I'll work on that.
In the video. Oh my god. His blank stare is so weird. All right. It's not our best, but medium, but okay.
Good stuff, Aiden. I liked it. Is it time to name the team of the tournament?
No, we're doing some high ground shit.
We're doing the high ground shit?
Oh, no, we can do team of the tournament. It's up to
Whatever you want, Bo.
Let's do team of the tournament. We've been talking about players. We'll talk about players. We can get to the deep analysis later. All right. It's time for our team of the tournament. We're going to name 3 teams. We're going to do it fucking fast because we are not.
That's hilarious, Aiden.
All right. I have a suggestion for doing it quickly.
Okay.
Let's talk about position 1, all 3 teams first. So
that's what we did last time.
Oh, okay. Well, then that's what we should do again. I don't know what we did last time. I don't remember any of that stuff. All right. So, you ready to go?
Yeah, I'm in.
All right. Let's talk position 1 here. Who were contenders for your 3 teams?
Yeah, okay. So Nisha, I love him, not in contention. Hector, honorable mention, not in contention. Monet, honorable mention, probably not in contention for me.
He didn't do it the whole tournament.
Yeah, the 3 for me are Ana, Miracle, and Ame, and in some order.
All right, so I should have done this earlier. I'm sorry about that. Just to be clear, first of all, I was considering main event to be more important than group stage, but not entirely. And second of all, not only am I thinking about absolute performance, I'm also thinking about importance to their team.
Yes.
Both matter. So just to be clear. All right. Anyways, yes, I've got Miracle, Ana, and Ame as my top 3. I want to throw a second honorable mention to Yawar. Yeah. Great group stage. Absolutely fantastic.
Prompting Aiden to ask who's the superior Hassan brother.
I'm backing off that, but I had a moment.
Yeah, you did.
All right. So, how did you decide between Miracle, Ana, and Ame?
To be quite honest, I didn't. I'm waiting to be swayed. However, I lean toward Ana for number 1 for a couple of reasons. Fewest deaths per game. All stats are for the main event unless I specify otherwise. Number 1, kills and assists per life. Best kill to death ratio among all position 1s. Oh, and also played the mind-blowing tournament-defining brand new carry hero called Io.
All right, so I'm about to come back at you. I have Ana on the second team.
Okay.
Right, here's my argument why, and I acknowledge everything you said, Robert. This was one of my hardest decisions.
Mm-hmm.
I looked at Ana. He played an amazing IO. He had number 1 KDA in the main event. Overall, maybe his stats weren't quite as good, but main event matters more. And also, but here's the thing, in terms of how much he mattered to his team,
it was top.
Part of the reason, he was not number 1 on his team, most valuable. Mm-hmm. He was, I would even argue, not the second most valuable. And I think you can make an argument that he wasn't even the 3rd most valuable player because they didn't need him. Here's the reality: they were kicking
right in a stark departure
so
from
bad
from TI9. By the
way, they were kicking ass or everyone's ass so easily. Like he didn't have to do that much.
Yeah,
and that's hard.
Didn't
to
always come online by the time the game was over.
Right, I'm not dropping him off like the. I've got him on the second team for that matter.
Sure.
So I'm going with Miracle. All right. Here's the thing: Miracle didn't play that great. Like this is a weird thing. I'm about to argue for him to be first team. He didn't play that great. Had 3.16 KDA at the group stage. Like, what the fuck is that? That's awful.
Yeah.
Up to 5.6 in the main event, keeping the average kills about the same. 5.6, not that good. But here's what matters to me. All right. Liquid had this amazing lower bracket run, and who drove that run? Miracle. All right. I think it was clear that he was the most valuable player on his team. To me. They were the 2nd best team at TI, and I'm comparing that to Ana, who was maybe the 3rd or 4th most valuable player on his team. That's what drives me to Miracle.
Yeah, I'm good with that. Miracle number 1 in kills per game. Kills kind of important this TI especially. Number 3 among all players in hero and tower damage. So Miracle, great performance by him.
We're good there. And then that puts Ame in number 3. By the way, he was the number 1 in KDA over the entire tournament and number 4 in GPM, but his main event numbers were substantially declining from his group stage.
Yeah, a little pedestrian.
Yeah.
But the thing about Ame, he fucking does his job. Like, what did they need to do to make top 3? They needed to beat Vici Gaming. He did his job.
Yeah.
He also loves Magic Community. Building BKB on Lifestealer? Fuck yeah, he does it.
Yeah. No, he's silly. It's silly. All right, we good there?
Yeah. All right. So on a position, a Miracle position, or Miracle first team, on a second team, Ame third team.
All right, we got mid players right now. Who's in your group here that you're talking about?
Thompson, maybe Sumail and Moon as like longer shots.
Interesting.
And by the way, mid one, oof, I hate to pile on mid one. Most deaths among all mids, 8 out of 12 in kills, 9th out of 12 in kills and assists per life. So yeah, really rough tournament for mid one. I felt so bad for the guy.
So let me throw a couple more names out there as people who I think at least need to honorable mention. And they're not in my top 3.
Okay.
Armel. Okay.
Yeah.
Again.
Loved Armel.
Best farming mid. I don't know how or what, but he wins. He's got the best net worth among all mids at 10 minutes. And then Chris Luck.
Sure.
Not consistent enough over the tournament. His team wasn't good enough, but man, like, you got to give him a little shout out for some of those games were nasty. Yeah. All right. So I'm going to tell you right now, I did not have Wii on my top 3.
Okay.
Did you have Wii in your top 3?
I'm not sure.
You're not sure? Oh, you are wussing out again. All right. All right. So first, all right, let's start at the top then. Let's get what we know.
Yeah.
Thompson's first team.
Dude, number 2 overall in kills among all players. Yeah. Number 1 in kills and assists per life among mids. Best use of the Pugnataunt.
Inarguably.
Right. Not arguable. Oh, and also best use of the high five. Like when he was chasing people with bristleback, offering the high five, I fucking loved that. And dug up a chest in front of an enemy hero in the grand finals.
All right, so let me throw you a stat here that I think is absolutely absurd. Okay, in the entire tournament, Thompson was number 2 in hero damage among all players. Okay, let me tell you why that's absurd. Their games, the person ahead of him is Gabby. Okay,
what's the average game length difference?
Let me tell you right now, the average game length for OG was 34 minutes. The average game for TNC was 51. So it took him 17 additional minutes to do 34,000 versus 31,500 hero damage. Absurd. Thompson gets it. Boom. That man, like, he's the guy who I'm just like, I mean, he was pretty good last TI, but not great.
Mm-hmm.
He was pretty bad during the regular season. Like, was he fucking around all year?
Right.
Like, what happened? Like, I literally don't know. Like, did he just like did they convince him to stop, like, you know, staying up all night and like drinking before games? Like, I actually don't know. Like, I like, it's such a massive transformation. I honestly don't really know like how to explain it. But
no, the only thing that can come close is if you watch the Red Bull documentary, you can see. You can get a better picture of how short the time frame was between him getting picked up by OG and then winning TI, and like now he has had an entire year to live in the skin of a tier 1 competitive gamer, and so I feel like if you have that comfort, you don't feel like you have to perform for anybody because you've already done it. You've already accomplished your entire life goal at age 20 or whatever he is. I would think that would make you a lot more comfortable to just play.
Okay, maybe, but he just spent an entire. You say he just like got picked up by OG, and that was like, you know, he didn't have much time. All right, so this year he got to spend an entire year practicing being mediocre. Like,
yes,
I'm just saying, like, it was shocking to me. All right. So that's out of the way. That's an obvious one. Top again. He's my pick for player of the tournament.
Totally. So I have Sumail next.
I do too. You absolutely. I mean,
number 1 kill to death ratio among mids. Number 2 fewest deaths among mids. And I mean, talk about importance to the team. I thought Arteezy had an excellent regular season with EG. Did not think he had an amazing TI.
Yeah, is there like even Crit I felt was not as impactful as he has been. I'm a big Crit believer, but he was not.
And I mean, luckily S4 stepped up.
Yeah, S4 stepped up in the main event. I gave him a lot of criticism. He played a lot better, but like, who on that team was a top 5 player at their position at this tournament?
Sumail.
And the answer is none. No one else. Only Sumail. Little thing here: he was third in kills, but most overall tournament. He was averaging the most kills at 10 minutes, and that's tough for cores. Generally, cores don't like have trouble especially mids have trouble getting those early lanes because it's hard to get those solo kills. But he's doing the work there, so I got Sumail.
Absolutely. Right. Number 3. This one is a lot tougher. So you don't have Wii.
I do not have Wii.
I mean, the only other one that jumped out to me statistically was Moon, and I have a tough time giving this to Moon.
You're forgetting about the other statistical darling, Somnus.
Oh, yes. Maybe is on my list. Number one fewest deaths among mids, and also most innovative use of gyrocopter. When was the last time we saw gyrocopter mid in competitive play?
When it was played by no one and everyone else at that a year and a half ago.
Yeah, exactly.
No, he's look, I mean his numbers were just out of control. I mean he was outstanding this tournament overall, second in KDA among all players, fifth in kills, third lowest deaths per game among all players over the course of the whole tournament. Main event wasn't as good, but he as his group stage, but you know what? His main event numbers were still better than almost everybody else's. He had that much room to fall. I think
against Liquid played a Huskar in a 60-minute game, and the Huskar didn't fall off that badly at the end of the game.
Right. I mean, so I think there's some qualitative, he didn't look as good at the end of the tournament watching him as he did early in the tournament.
Sure.
But you know what? He was out to a huge lead as the best player.
And gets a lot of benefit of the doubt being our first team all DPC mid anyway.
So I'm going to go Somnus. You all right with that?
Yeah. I'm in.
All right.
Off lane.
Who's your I
have a number one for offlane.
I do too, but I want to preface this by saying I found offlane to be the hardest one to do for this because almost no offlane players in this tournament struck out as being big players for their team. I mentioned this in the Discord today. I was it's one of the hardest positions to evaluate too, because sometimes the job of an offlane is to die.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm do you blame them for dying? No, but it makes their stats look crappy and everything like that. But I really struggled to identify players that were good. I mean, so let me give you an example of a player I don't have on my list.
Okay.
I don't have mind control on my list. All right.
Yeah.
His team came in second, and I cannot remember a single time at TI, and I watched a lot of fucking games, that mind control did something that was impressive.
Didn't help they gave him 3 Tide Hunters in the grand finals.
Well, right. True.
Better than that.
But still, it just was I mean, he played a great Darkseer.
Sure.
The only one person to play it. But it wasn't he was making great plays. He was just playing Darkseer. I don't know. It was. I don't have my list.
He had a vacuum into ET Stomp and a vacuum into or a telekinesis into vacuum and that. Yeah. But even that, I agree.
He had one thing where he vacuum someone up onto the high ground.
He had a huge vacuum in the LGD series. That was in the the game that we're going to talk about.
Okay, I forgot about that part. That was not part of what we were talking about in that.
He
game.
actually had two huge vacuums in that game.
Okay, so. Yeah, so I mean, he played some good games, but I just
honorable mention mind control.
Yeah, I'll give him honorable mention, but there were nobody I really wanted to give it to, except for a couple. So all right,
yeah,
so
there were exactly 2 who I wanted to give it to.
I had exactly 2 I wanted to give it to.
Yeah, and I assume they're the same as mine. Mine are Chalice and Seb in that order.
Yeah. All right, so we can debate them in a second. But who do you have as your third?
It's between S4 and KP, and I have S4, right? Exactly.
I didn't have either of them. I have somebody else.
Insanity.
You know who I have? For lack of a better option.
Yang?
No, I picked Zai.
Zai, yeah. No, Zai played well. And Zai did his glue guy routine to the best of his abilities. And while much of Secret was falling apart, Zai was playing exactly as well as he always does.
Right, and that's sort of what I went to. I was if there's no one else if there's no one standing out, then don't you give it to the guy who is not supposed to stand out?
Yeah,
I guess sort of.
Well, right, and Secret's paradigm was very much closer to four supports and 1 core, and so as Zai played one of those support roles as well as one can play it.
So I mean,
but let's talk.
You watched Zai. Well, hang on. So who did you give it to for third team? Because you watched Zai more than I did, or more closely than I did, because you're a Secret fan.
No, I felt weird giving it to Zai, but I like the call honestly. KP's team wasn't good enough, although his numbers were nice, and S4's performances were a little too variable.
Yeah, he had a good couple series, but his group stage was real bad. When EG was struggling, S4 was a root cause of it, in my opinion.
Totally. All right, but we got to talk about Chalice here. Chalice is my number 1, and I'll tell you why.
I'm ready for it.
First of all, the statistical case: number 1 kill to death ratio among offlaners. Number 1 kills.
By the way, number 1 in offlaners. He's number 10th overall.
Yeah.
Like more than half the teams had someone with a worse had no one with a better KDA than the Chalice.
Yeah. Well, number 2 in GPM among offlaners, number 1 in experience per minute among offlaners, and in my notebook as I'm watching the lower bracket finals, I have this one sentence in my notebook that says, "Chalice Centaur is a problem."
Okay, so this is not the game we're gonna watch, but was that the game? Was it game 1 where he died 3 times in the first like 4 minutes, and then came back, or was that game 2? No, that was game 1. That was game 1. He died 3 times by 2:18, and yet was the most farmed hero at 14 minutes. He became the most farmed hero. What the fuck's that about, man? Like,
dude, his Centaur is a fucking problem. Like you have to ban that hero in my humble, Archon 2 opinion. Anyway, and he had a couple of questionable plays in the game that we're gonna analyze.
I'm gonna rip him a new one, but
yeah, feel free to rip him a new one. He's still my first team offlaner.
Fair. Yeah, I'm with you. I had him as there as well. So I had Seb number 2, and let me talk about here. So Seb
was great.
So I'm less impressed by. I actually less impressed by his play. He was great, but in some ways I think he was great because a high tide raises all boats. Like his numbers are good, but his team's numbers were fantastic. Turns out if your team does well, your numbers are better. That to me wasn't a plus or a minus. What made me decide on him being second is that he, first of all, we know he's part of the strategic brain trust behind OG. It's No Tail and him doing most of it with Shock, whatever his name, their coach's name as well.
Yes.
It's the 3 of them. You can't tell me Anna's out there doing any big strategic things. Although I guess he's saying pick me IO. But here's where I gave him a big nod and where he matters a lot. He forced 19 Magnus bans against them in 28 games. He forced 7 Treant bans against them in 28 bans. Right?
Those heroes are not getting banned against most teams, Aden.
Even if Seb plays exactly replacement level with every other hero, you are forcing teams in a meta where there were a lot of heroes you had to absolutely ban. Alchemist, IO for other, but you're forcing them to ban Magnus against you. Like, that sucks for the other team. All right, that alone, your Magnus, even though you barely played it, had a huge impact on their team strategies.
Mm-hmm.
So,
well, and then the other half of the time, they're first picking Enchantress for him, and he's still playing well despite the enemy team having 5 picks to counter it.
Yep, absolutely.
So yeah, Seb,
right.
team 2. And are we going Zai for third?
I mean, unless you want to overrule me on that one, that's a real lukewarm endorsement for Zai. I'm sorry, buddy, but like,
dude,
I didn't have anything better.
I love Zai, as you said, best glue guy in Dota, and for lack of a better option, we choose Zai. Position 4.
So I do not. I want to tell you, I do not have a third team person for position 4. There was no one I wanted to put there.
Interesting.
So I'm willing to hear your options and then judge you accordingly. But I did have a clear 1-2.
Okay.
So let me see. Who'd you have for 1-2?
Well, I had FY number 1, and then I did not have a strong preference. Then my next 3 are Jerax, GH, and Yapsor.
Okay. I did not have FY on one of my teams.
You hate FY.
I don't. I love FY. FY was my favorite Chinese player until Paparazzi came along. All right. I loved him on Vici Gaming. Do not accuse me of being an FY hater. All right. But here's the deal. His group stage versus main event numbers, the split is really unpleasant. All right. Let me give them to you here. This is group stage. Maybe unpleasant's not the right word, but they fall off. So he is his numbers in group stage are 4.25 kills, 3.69 deaths, and 15.58 or 5.6 assists with a 5.37 KDA. All right, across the board, his numbers are worse. Not more deaths, but 3.4 kills, 4.6 deaths, 13.2 assists, and a 3.61 KDA. All right, and more importantly, I would just say he was dominant in the group stage. There were not those same moments I watched almost all of LGD's main stage events, with the exception of the beating they put on VP, which certainly inflated his stats. He did not have those moments. He had a good Lion game, but it was not great, and he had a bunch of other games where he was super average. So I'm not saying he can't be on there, but it's really difficult for me to think about putting him first when I just don't think he mattered in the playoffs. I don't know. Counter argument. Bring it.
I'm awake. No, number one, experience per minute among position fours. And then, so Finger of Death. Finger of Death does pretty much the same amount of damage when every support hero casts that spell. I mean, like, I get that you accumulate more for getting kills with it. Why is it that only Finger of Death is totally demoralizing when FY is casting it? And also, the most outrageous spell steals. I think you have watched the high ground throw of the game 2 so much that you may forget FY's heroics on Rubik in game 1 of the lower bracket finals. Amazing spell steals. Time Walk, Disruption to save someone within Chronosphere. Stole Chronosphere, obviously. Avalanche. I mean, that was an FY God game, and you were not giving him enough credit. Like, you can leave him out of the top 3 if you want, but like, you're shitting on this guy with your boring numbers too much.
All right. Well, I said I hadn't decided who was my third team one. I don't currently have him there, but if you want him on the top 3, I will accede to that. I'm not ready to accede to putting him on first team.
That's fine. Give me your top 2.
All right, I had Jarex as number 1, and sort of by process of elimination. I thought every other 4 had flaws, and Jarex's stats aren't as great, but part of that's just because games weren't as long. They wrecked people too early. And I have him up there because this is the man who played fucking support Pugna and was healing the shit out of Ana in key moments. This is the guy who played Earthshaker against VP, and I mean, I didn't cry, but I kind of wanted to after watching what he did and thinking that this is what Roger used to do.
Also, 3-0 on Tiny, 16 assists per game when he played Tiny, and 16 assists in pretty short games.
Yeah, I mean, I just think he was of significant importance.
Agreed.
To his team.
Also, best use of the next level play chat wheel.
Truth. Where did you have Jarex originally?
Like I said, I had FY, and then I had the next 3 in kind of any order. So I love Jarex as the 1 pick.
Okay, let's go there. All right, so the next one I would even be content to demote the next one. I had Yapsor as second team, but I don't feel strongly.
I thought Yapsor played fucking great. Like I said, Secret had ups and downs, but Yapsor, he did exactly what he was supposed to do, and they finally stopped playing the Yapsor 4-position invoker, thank goodness. And as soon as that stopped, things started going a lot better. Yapsor, by the way, quick thing on the Yapsor 4-position invoker, they always picked it with Crystal Maiden, and against teams that were not tier 1, it fucking wrecked. Because against those teams, you can get away with the greedy 4, especially if it has a Crystal Maiden to enable it. So I thought it was great against shitty teams. Against good teams, you're gonna get your shit pushed in, and they did.
Yeah, that's fair. That's a good point.
Okay.
So, all right.
So Yapsor, faint praise.
All right. Do you want to leave him at second, or do you want to slide FY there and move Yapsor to third?
I would rather have FY 2 and Yapsor 3.
Okay. Done.
Good.
All right. So. Let's talk about 5. We did 5 and coach separately. I'm gonna be honest with you.
Yeah. We can skip coach.
All of my teams have the same. I have the same team for both the coach and the
well, let's do them as a pair so that we save
fair.
a little time.
So I think this is easy. First team.
Is it not No Tail?
It's definitely No Tail. Holy crap.
No Tail and socks. All right, good.
Yeah, done.
All right. What's your best no-tail stat, or your best...
I don't have any stats. My best no-tail stat is this team went 23-5, and they picked fucking Carry Io. And he magically turned Thompson into the best player in the world. And convinced Honor to come out of retirement. I mean, that's enough. I don't need anything more. I don't need any stats.
Many good things happened. He was 3-0 on Grimstroke with 19 assists per game on Grimstroke.
And none of that matters compared to the rest of what I just said.
Fucking right.
All right. Second team, I have Kuro.
Yes.
He actually probably had the best stats of position 5.
The best stats Kuro has ever had, period.
Yeah. And he brought his team, so he played both well mechanically, but he also brought his team to the lower bracket all the way to the finals and took game 1. So, I mean, I think that's a pretty easy shot. And I had RMN as Roman as the as the coach then.
Good.
All right, the third team, I had a lot of trouble with.
Me too, because I remember as I was watching the tournament that I thought X Nova was playing great, and I could find no evidence after the fact to support X Nova playing great.
Right? I had the same thought. Nothing on X Nova that's playing great. So then I was thinking like, oh my God, is it Pili Die?
No. Is it Fly?
No. I mean, he and Bobo are having like people are criticizing their
yeah.
I mean,
was it DY?
Was it Arzik? Was it Arzik? Or was it Solo and Arzik?
Was it Schofield?
I sort
or
of
was
went
it?
through
Sorry, Stinger's the 5, I think.
Stinger, yeah. Schofield was the 4. So eventually I put down Puppy.
Yeah,
I'm okay with that.
I did the same. Like I hated the first 4 drafts Team Secret put out. And then finally, they started drafting less shitty. So I was proud of him for adjusting. I was proud of him for fucking crushing Beachy Gaming, and his stats were not terrible. Number 3 in assists among position 5s, number 3 KAL, number 2 in hero damage. So yeah, I think it goes to Puppy.
All right, done. And then Coach, I don't even know, man.
It's hard to give it to Sunbeer after he let Mid-1 take a shit down his own leg.
I mean, do we have to give a like?
No, you give it to Super, right? Coaching RNG.
Okay, yeah. Okay, I like that. I like that call. That's out of left field for me, but I like it. I'm in. Super, it is for all the reasons of someone like RNG turned it around. That matters.
Dude, Aden, you made the case earlier in the show for why RNG did not just get lucky with the tournament draw. They actually did something this tournament.
Yeah, absolutely.
And let's give Super credit for that.
Done. I'm in.
Okay.
All right, Lorton.
Do I dare look at the clock?
one. Sorry, Jason. All right, we have.
Thank you, Jason. I think is what you mean.
Yes, thank you, and also sorry.
As Lyrical Dota taught us in episode 6, by the way. What episode? This is 79. Yeah. In episode 6, Lyrical Dota taught us, don't apologize to your then girlfriend for leaving her in the lurch to go interview a Dota celebrity. Say, I appreciate your letting me do that.
Jason, we appreciate you mixing this, and although I will say I'm already married, so in 3 years it's probably not gonna happen, buddy.
Wait, I didn't totally follow that.
Well, I mean, 3 years later, she was my girlfriend. 3 years later, we're married, or 2 years later. That's true.
Dude.
But I'm just
because
saying,
of Lyrical's
Jason,
great advice.
Jason, we really appreciate you, but I'm married already, so can't be you.
Dude,
that's all I'm saying. I can't.
I think I got an alert that Jason is in a relationship.
Ooh. Do we need to have him on? And
dude, yeah, I feel like we should debrief on this.
Can we have a Jason's corner?
Jason's relationship corner. I feel like that's the last thing he wants.
I mean, he'll just edit it out every time, won't he? He'll record it, but never put it in. All right, we're gonna talk. So I got really excited about 2 games that had some high ground mistakes, and actually, once I watched the games, I noted a couple of other mistakes there. So, but that also were around buybacks. So the 2 games we're looking at,
go ahead,
are LGD versus Liquid Game 2. Okay, this is the game where LGD should have made upper bracket, but instead threw.
Should have made the grand finals.
Should have made grand finals, sorry, but instead threw. And Liquid took it back. And then the second game was Liquid actually throwing against OG in game 1 of the upper bracket, but then threw.
Sorry, you must be talking about the grand finals.
Yeah, sorry, grand finals, yeah.
But Liquid won that game.
They did. They threw, and then they won because of a sort of counter throw, but that's a separate issue. But they definitely threw. They threw a huge advantage. So the couple of things I'm going to focus on here are they made. So keep in mind, these are going to be things about it. Is they make mistakes on using magic immunity. A couple players make mistake theirs. When they use buyback. And when they use really high cooldown spells, and I guess this fourth one is that they're not patient when sieging. That these teams are not patient. Those are the 4 kind of themes I got out of it. Interesting.
So I watched the LGD throw very closely, and I only watched the Team Liquid one once. So like LGD was in my opinion, too patient when sieging. So we can hash that out a little later. I'm gonna let you lead this one,
there's one
Aiden.
specific moment where they're definitely not patient. So, all right. So let's set the stage here. It's 35 minutes in. LGD just picked up the Aegis and the Cheese. They've got a Huskar and a Naix as their primary. We're not going to go through the whole lineup because it's not important. They got a Huskar and a Naix, and they're up against a Darkseer Sven TA combo, essentially. And the Centaur. So the Centaur's their third hero. So they try and go high ground mid. Repelled, but no cost. Okay. They go to top. They're repelled. Again, no cost. They go back to mid. They take T3 and a melee Rax.
Then it appears that they called retreat, except then Chalice is like, no, fuck that. Let's do it.
So they force 4 buybacks there. TA, Sven, ET, and Rubik all have to buy back between 37 and 39th minute. But LGD get in the fight, and they have to use a few. They have 3 deaths, and the Aegis are used. Huskar, Jack, and Centaur all die, and Jahiro has to buy back. So again, still a win. This is not a throw yet. I mean, it could have been I think it could have been more optimal for them, but it was.
Well, if they just gotten out after taking that mid Rax, knowing everything we know in hindsight, that would have been a better move. But But when Chalice made the reinitiation, I could see it. But they just it was like Kuro could read their minds because he echo stomped 3 and caught him in the Earth Splitter, and that was fucking devastating.
All right, so they again, but they still caused 4 buybacks, including on two of the 2 main cores. So I mean, that's still a huge win.
Yes,
you got Rax and cost 4 buybacks. Okay, so now they head down to bottom lane to essentially siege that. At 41 minutes, they go high ground in the bot, and they take the tower, and wall is used. And actually, I think was God's Strength used as well then? I don't remember.
It was not. No, God's Strength was earlier.
So wall is used. They don't take advantage of that. So the next time they go high ground.
This was, in my opinion, LGD's mistake there. So LGD had only 1 or 2 buybacks at that point, and so by waiting an extra 2 minutes for while Wall of Replica came back online, LGD also secured all 5 buybacks. So I'm certain that was their thought process, but that thought process was stupid.
Okay, so the next thing that happens is, and this is the first mistake, and you're going to see this is not as bad as it. Miracle does it much worse. So Ana dies by walking up high ground and getting immediately bashed by a level 25 TA. This is at 43 minutes, and then gets chain stunned and blown up. He probably didn't think it could happen.
Yeah.
So who did I say did it? Yeah, it's Ana.
You said Ana. It's good. It's all good.
Ana walked up there.
Yeah. So he buys back immediately.
You are walking up high ground to no vision. Why not hit rage before you walk up?
Yep.
Still get bashed, but you definitely get out because nothing else. There's no follow up for that. So that's a mistake right there. That is a misplay. He obviously thought he was going to. Okay. He buys back. Wall and God's Strength is down. So this is this is a correct buyback in my opinion. Right. He's come back. He has. They've traded his buyback for 2 major spells. They walk up again. They get Rax. Mm-hmm. This is where the biggest mistake happens. And this is where I'm going to hammer Chalice on this. Okay. What is the goal of this moment? The goal is to kill the bottom lane Raxes. That's the only goal. You don't need to kill the other team. You don't need to make a play or anything like that. Chalice jumps instead of just sitting there in the back line watching.
Gets a 2-man stomp that nobody can follow up on.
Right. He dies, and the whole fight just goes to shit. But all they needed to do, you have a Naix. This is a classic walk up, hit it 8 times with rage, step back, wait till rage is back on, and just do it. And you kill the Raxes and you walk away. Easily done. Instead, Chalice, whoever makes call, but Chalice goes in, and it leads to a fight that leads to does everyone die except for Ame? Chalice dies. He buys back.
Well, it leads to Liquid getting Roche, which is devastating.
Yes, but I think So and Huskar also dies for not BKBing. So again, this is another situation
and not eating cheese.
He didn't BKB. Walked into an ice path and died because of it. So it's just it's a series of just this is the impatience and not using magical immunity essentially correctly. I think buybacks were used appropriately this game.
Yes, I agree.
I have a problem with that. So that was my read of it. You have anything to add there?
Well, only that Cinderin made the critical point there after LGD made that throw. Toby was saying, well, they got the racks, but they lost a bunch of heroes. And Cinderin was like, dude, at this stage of the game, the heroes are way stronger than the barracks. These heroes can clear creep waves all day long. This is clearly a Liquid win for that reason.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. All right. We ready to go to Liquid, OG?
Yeah, let's do it.
So this one I've got more room on. So the actual throw happens about 37 minutes in. Okay. And then there's a bunch of stuff after that as well that we can talk about briefly. But it actually, there's a cascading series of events that starts at 28 minutes. This is when Mind Control uses Ravage on Ana's Spectre, and they don't get the kill.
Okay.
Okay. So at 28 minutes that happens. Miracle, Ana's playing Spectre. I don't remember what. Thompson is playing Tiny, I believe.
That's right.
Seb is playing Enchantress. Jarex is playing
Pugna.
On Liquid, Miracle's playing TA. We is playing Meepo, right?
That's right.
And Mind Control's playing Tide. So they use Ravage. And here is where Miracle. So at 28:30, so that was in the dire jungle. At 30 seconds later, there's a fight mid. And Miracle jumps in. Jumps in and does not BKB immediately. And they do not have Ravage to save him, essentially. So Miracle does this, he dies. This becomes a problem because then Miracle has to buy. So then there's a big, long chase. It goes all the way from Dire's mid T2 all the way down to the T2 of Radiant top. Mm-hmm. Miracle has to buy back. And there's a couple problems here. First off, the reason he waits so long to buy back, I'm pretty sure, is because his BKB was on cooldown for so long. And the reason his BKB is on cooldown because after he almost died in an immediate blow up, he cast it anyways, which is problematic in itself. But they kill 3, but they lose the Meepo. The meat bag.
Yes, we got it.
They lose Meepo. So that in itself, not a huge deal for Liquid. What it does though is it forces them to wait for essentially 8 minutes before they try and go high ground again. And there's a lot of times they have to be very cautious. So all of this stems from a failed use of Ravage, and then Miracle not respecting that they used Ravage. And then for 8 minutes it fucks up Liquid's game plan.
Right.
So I think just thinking about that, how much of the game that messes up just because of that. So pick this up, and this is just kind of a point. At 35 minutes, there's a fight at the Dire bounty rune, Dire top bounty rune. And Miracle, in this case, BKBs immediately because he still doesn't have buyback. And I think he might have been slightly less tempted to do that if he had buyback, but he's so paranoid. Regardless, though, it works, and they run Seb and Ana dive, chase him and die. Thompson dies, and Jarex dies. So right now, this is great. But then Liquid turn into a high ground push mid, and they take racks. So now they have a 20k net worth lead. They've just taken mid racks, and they're about to go top. And this is when, again, a lack of patience really messes and usage of other of BKBs really becomes a problem. So they go top. Thompson, I believe, blinks out, tosses Mind Control back into the base, into the midst of LGD's 4 heroes. He is huge. Miracle somehow, for some reason, thinks this is a moment to dive, does it, and does not use BKB immediately again. It is incredibly frustrating to watch him, like a guy this good, make these mistakes. And Liquid loses this fight. They lose him. He does have buyback. They then make a slight miscalculation. Wheat dies. He almost kills Ana, but he gets healed, so he doesn't quite do it. And it's a team wipe for Liquid, all because they could have walked away with Mind Control if they had patience. They might have even Mind Control might have just been able to walk out if they hadn't dove behind him, but there's just no patience there. Like Miracle dives in and he misplays it. So the second thing here is that OG goes straight to Roche, and here's the second problem. Miracle, GH, and Mind Control buy back in order to contest it. Problem: Miracle doesn't have a TP. There's no point in buying back here if you don't have a TP. It doesn't do you any good. And for some reason, his team either doesn't recognize it or thinks that GH and Mind Control are enough. They're not enough to take this. They die. Why doesn't Miracle have a TP? Because he dove in without using BKB, then tried to use BKB to TP away, compounding his mistake, and then we get there. If he had just died without using TP or BKB, it's possible that
He could have
OG
bought back,
that he bought
TP'd,
that,
and
they
fought
cut it
with
all aside.
BKB. Yeah.
And then Mind Control uses Ravage way early with no vision of the pit in order to try and like steal the Roche, but it doesn't work. So again, just like a mind-bogglingly bad set of errors by misplays by Liquid here, which is mind-boggling. So at this point, it's now essentially tied to net worth. All right, so that's sort of the
That was the bulk of the throw, correct?
bulk of the throw. The bulk of the throw. The rest of the game is kind of interesting, just in the sense of that like Liquid ultimately wins this game despite everything going against them. Seb, they take mid and bot, I believe, racks, and most of top at some point.
Yeah, they were eventually left with one racks standing.
Yeah.
Liquid were.
There's a bunch of skirmishing, but ultimately, Miracle and we dying and buying back allows them to get a kill, to win a fight and then take the Aegis. They partially lost because of Ana's super unfortunate timing, where he where like as the Ancient was expiring, he had like 3 seconds left before Haunt was up. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So what happens is that Liquid takes it. They go high ground. Ana has like 30 seconds left on his buyback. He's trying to save it, and he's trying to save it for Haunt, or he's just trying to save it because it's like close enough.
Yeah.
But I think the lesson there was like in that situation when you're facing buyback and you're my strongest hero, buyback, even if it just slows the other team down, it might be enough time to get your Haunt out. But anyway, so I mean, like really, the reality
ideally
is
they found Divey or something.
Yeah, these two games, they have some good plays, but the reality is that so much of this is actually, I think, pretty serious mistakes on both teams, and use of buyback and use of BKBs and Magic Immunity,
right,
and lack of patience. So I just thought it was really interesting. These are some real like lessons about, and some of them are like easier to implement. Like this is one that I make the mistake of all the time. If you're Life Stealer, anytime you walk up high ground, why are you not using Rage? You don't know what's there. Every time, why not?
Like, super short cooldown. By that point, it's 8 seconds too.
And the other thing I think there is not to overuse. If you're already fucked, don't use skills that you might need when you buy back, like BKB or TP. Like, it's really easy to be like, well, I might get out.
Or Ravage.
Yeah. So those are my thoughts.
Yeah. I agree with you. And like, what are the most demoralizing things that an opponent does when they're on your high ground? It's when they use Monkey King ultimate to hit your barracks. It's when they use Rage to hit your barracks, because there's just literally nothing you can do about it.
Absolutely.
So what would you not want someone to do to you? Exactly that. So that's what you should be doing to your opponents.
Right. I mean, you kind of want teams to die. Like when you're defending high ground and you're at a disadvantage, you want them to overextend and dive.
Of course.
Right. Because you're like sitting there being like, how do we initiate this fight in a way that will work in the last 3 times it hasn't?
Yeah.
Yeah. All right.
Good stuff, Aiden.
Whew. A couple more things to talk about, lads.
We have one low prio story, and that is the allegation and then quick walk back from Arsart that OG were using Adderall, and that's why they won 2 straight TIs.
So I saw a couple of translations of this, and I think the Adderall thing was a mistake. He basically, I think what he said was, how can they possibly play like this so bad for so long and then all of a sudden play well? They must have been on something like Adderall. So I think Adderall was not, like, he wasn't specifically saying, like, I don't think he meant to specifically say Adderall. I think
I agree with
like
that translation,
something.
by the way.
Yeah. Regardless, you shouldn't be making accusations. Like, as much as it looked like that, like, we'll be the first to say Thompson looked like a completely different player.
Yes.
Specifically, I don't know if the rest of the team necessarily played better than I thought they could, but I mean, Thompson looked like a super player. But I mean, but the assumption then that means that you like are doing it through drugs is pretty dicey, to say the least, and should be done with extreme caution or evidence.
Yes.
So, but yeah, so he rolled it back because clearly he had no evidence and realized that this was a really dumb situation, a dumb place for him to make a stand. But also it led to a little discussion on whether even Adderall and Ritalin or those sorts of drugs would help you play.
Yes.
Particularly because there'd been some CS:GO players who'd done it, and we saw some discussion from Kips in particular, basically saying like those things don't help you play Dota
unless you have ADHD, like a legitimate clinical need for that.
In which case,
take them.
You should be taking them.
Of course.
So they're not just some like you can turn. But she also said even in those cases, it takes a couple months for that like to even like recover from. You actually get worse before you get better.
Maybe Thompson was starting his regimen at Epicenter.
Walk that back or you're going to be in trouble.
Dude.
But yeah,
that's not an allegation, accusation, or any such thing. That's rampant as speculation from a dumbass fan.
Yeah. So yeah.
Actually, and it's not speculation. That's not what I believe is going on. And I have a take on this too.
Yeah. So I would say that like thankfully this has essentially gone away. It was a big deal for a day.
Yes.
And I think it's pretty much gone away. And this is how, and as it should have. And I have to mostly thank the people for after a bad start, give them credit for walking it back. And, you know, like it's not like he should get credit for the whole situation, but like the pretty rapid retraction and apology are useful because people will make mistakes and that's how you handle it.
Absolutely. And the other thing is like, this is a mental sport. This is not the NFL where you can literally take human growth hormone and absolutely become a better version of yourself at the game. Like Dota is not that simple. And so like when you think of the spectrum of things you could be doing to make yourself better at Dota, those would include eating better foods, sleeping better, listening to music before you go out, like doing physical exercise. These are all human performance options that these guys are likely exploring. And if pharmacology is part of their human performance portfolio, I have no issue with that because clearly these guys are healthy, well-adjusted guys, and they whatever they're doing, they have it dialed in to the point where it's making them focus and perform at an amazing level. So I do not worry for their health, unlike guys who take steroids or HGH and like they're full of rage and also their knees are falling apart. None of that stuff is happening to these guys. So whatever they're doing is working, and it appears to be not having adverse effects on their health. And so for those pushing for a banned substances list or regulation, that seems like, first of all, work that Valve is never going to do. And second of all, completely and totally unnecessary from where I sit.
Yeah, I mean, like, if it was even funny, I think someone in our Discord asked if they should be tested for that thing. And I was like, tested for what? So if we find that they have it, that nothing will be done because we don't even know what's against the rules there. So like, it was just, the whole thing was kind of silly. Like,
oh yeah.
I mean, it's possible they are against the rules, like that Valve has been like, generally don't do this stuff to like the players in like some really obnoxious, vague way. But
I am certain that guys with this level of income can get a prescription if they need a prescription.
That's fair. All right, Lorton, we are almost out of time. Let's farm one more wave and get some last hits. And we got some questions from listeners to do it with. Lorton, this is from Click to Try. The Chinese crowd during the finals, was it warranted or shameful? I get that you can root for your own team, but you have to root for someone in the finals, and no one did. There was barely anything when OG won. What are your thoughts on this?
I wouldn't go so far as shameful, but I mean, every crowd around the world appreciates good Dota when they see it. And by the way, when the Chinese teams played good Dota, you could hear it in this broadcast that this team was appreciating some good ass Dota. And so it was disappointing that this crowd was not more vocal during the grand finals. I suspect honestly that a lot of them left after LGD lost. So like, sure, it's disappointing. It's also completely and totally expected from everybody who knows anything about China and Chinese culture. The thing that was completely and totally shameful, and a lot of Chinese fans have been saying the same thing, was following the TNC players back to their dressing room and like Tim's saying, "You guys, please leave us alone. We just like, our hearts are broken. And we just want to grieve for our TI hopes, and you guys are fucking pounding on our door and yelling mean things at us." That I thought was shameful.
Agreed. I think there is a difference between warranted, unfortunate, and shameful. And I'm really going to go for the unfortunate. It's unfortunate people weren't cheering for during the grand finals, like really as loudly as they were earlier. But like, I'm not going to say that's shameful. Like, I mean, if fake cheering is not like, that's not any better than like,
no.
no one wants that. Like, I mean, if Valve really wanted to pipe in cheering sound, they could have. Like, but like, I mean, like that's not great. I mean, so would I prefer to have a crowd that was active? Yeah, but I mean, I don't know. I think that we need to focus specifically on the chasing people to their dressing room is not acceptable, and that can't happen again.
Aden, from alert listener Dr. Carmack, does this recent win mean that current OG is the best Dota 2 team of all time? Does an incredible performance at TI balance out a lackluster season? Who else do you think is in contention for the best team of all time?
This is a question that entirely comes down to how you compare TI to other tournaments.
Yeah.
Do I look at it as, okay, these tournaments... Yeah. Same time, but I'm recording. Parents are visiting, guys.
Leave it in, Jason. Immortalize Bruce on the podcast.
Oh my God. So look, I mean, the question, I think, like, the best, there's a couple things. The best teams win the most important things. The best teams also beat the other best competitions. So by some measures, winning a major is just about as tough as a TI, right? Because the competition is just as strong there. And in fact, there have been some ESLs.
And by that logic, TI, this year's Team Secret might be the best team of all time because it's the highest level competition and the most sustained success.
Right.
I don't love that argument.
There's also length of time. I mean, you could argue that even the OG teams, prior OG teams, they won 4 majors in 2 years. Like, is that better than 2 TIs in 2 years?
Well, right. Navi went to 3 straight TI grand finals and was dominant, and by the way, was dominant for the times in between there too, although lower level of Dota.
So I'm going to make all those caveats, and I'm going to say that in general, we should consider this OG the best team of all time. And here's why. It's because we do, for right or wrong, we do put an incredible emphasis on TI. No one's won 2 of them. They won them back to back, and especially this one they did in dominating fashion. I don't necessarily like that analysis, but I think that is the community-supported analysis.
Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, the others in contention would be TI3 Alliance. Basically, after TI2, these guys said, you guys don't appear to be taking this game all that seriously. Here's what it would look like if you took the game seriously. And then they ripped off an incredible string of tournament wins, capped with like a wire-to-wire TI going from the first seed to after the groups to winning the grand final. So, I mean, that was an extremely impressive run.
I would argue that you would have to consider Secret of the TI5 variety.
TI5 Secret, yeah.
TI5 pre-TI5 Secret. That run was incredible. I think you'd have to consider like the January through May run of VP from last year.
Yep.
But I mean, like I think it has to come down to OG.
Yep, I agree with you. All right, Aden. It's your turn to ask a question.
That is true. Lorton, me and my friends, we are from Brazil, always thought that Misery was a really bad player in Pain Gaming and Chaos. And not only he moved the team from Brazil, but later got all Brazilian players out. Do you think he is a good player, or is there any stats that indicate that he is a good player? Or is he still in a team because of his TI6 second place finish? I also don't get why he gets so much love from some Dota 2 outlets as Join Dota, putting him in as a TI winner deserving player this year. This is from Capacus?
Oh, I should have asked.
We should have asked about how to pronounce this.
Sorry. Dude, yeah, I have a friend who's Brazilian who could absolutely have told me this.
Yeah, new to our Discord. Glad to have you. It's a really good question.
Se pasas, as I will guess.
Okay, fair.
Se pasas.
So, Lorton, what do you think about Misery?
I don't think he's any good anymore. I think he was fine back in it was TI6 that he was a grand finalist. He is so to your point, it is lazy analysis to put him as a TI deserving winner, because that's just saying who has sniffed it and who is personable. And I will say this for Misery. He is personable. He was great on the TI7 broadcast, and I think that has earned him a ton of credit in the community when his playing performance has not warranted it.
So I'm going to give you you asked what stats suggest he's good. He's a position 5 player and a captain right now.
Can't evaluate that.
Stats that matter for that position, except for basically whether your team is successful. And I think we can pretty much say for the last couple of years, team not really successful. So I'm going to say he is not warrant the praise he's getting right now.
All right, Aiden. Last hit. Hey guys, this is from Neely DJ, not to be confused with my friend Dan Neely from the Grinnell College swim team. At least I don't think so. It'd be weird if he didn't introduce himself. Hey guys, I was wondering if you thought this year's TI put OG's run last year in a different light. I feel like the narrative after last TI was that OG lucked into a meta that suited their pace. Does the fact that they dominated this year despite playing at a different pace mean that last year was less about lucking into a good meta, and more about their ability to identify and execute optimal strategies faster than everyone else? Thanks so much.
I mean, it has to put it in a little bit of a different light, but I would still say that their TI was a little lucky because, again, we saw two different OGs last year. An OG
and this year.
I'm saying at the tournament last year even.
Yes.
We had this terrible OG who looked like they were going to go out in the group stage, and then an OG that sort of came together, had a couple, and did ultimately peak there, but it wasn't like they were a dominant force. There were a number of series where I thought, oh my God, OG was lucky to escape that series. And I think everyone thought the same thing. This year, you can't say that. There was not a single series where I thought, man, OG lucked out in that series, or even like a single game they won that I was like, man, they should not deserve that game. They were dominant. Now, does that mean? I think what that means is that, well, I don't know quite what that means. I guess to me, I still think they were lucky. But here's the thing: if you hit, so I'm going to give a really bad example here. If you hit 2 holes in one, and one of them is good, and one of them is sort of skips off something and sort of lands there.
Actually, sorry. Yeah, my grandpa was a great golfer. He played from age 50 to age 90, practically like 240 days a year he played golf. His only ever hole-in-one was a sculled 5-wood that cracked the pin and then dropped straight into the cup.
Yeah. So my point is that sometimes I would never be able to hit the pin, right? I mean luck, there's a you don't know when a team is in some ways lucky to win, they still had to be pretty good, and that might mean that there's an envelope of well, they could actually be here, they could be here, but they're somewhere in the middle. And they might have been lucky to hit here. When you get a second piece of evidence that says they're up here, it doesn't.
It's stronger.
It doesn't invalidate the first piece of evidence that had a variance. It just kind of confirms that it might be towards the upper half. So yeah. I don't think it invalidates it, but it does give a little more perspective. That's a long-winded,
extremely long-winded. Thank you, Aiden. No, the number one thing that put OG's run last year in a different light was TrueSight, which taught us that this was a team all about love and friendship, and pitted them against a team that was about science and checklists, and love and friendship won out, and then love and friendship won again. It's just you wouldn't write a movie about this, because why would the love and friendship team win 2 TIs in a row? That would be stupid.
Yeah, fair enough. All right, Lorton, one last question. This is also from our Discord from Nestico. You answered my last question about the how of the show with some of the why, saying the reason you want to do this show is that you felt the content needed to be made. Lorton went so far.
Dude, you're not going to read the.
I don't know. I feel like self-promotion. Sorry, your listeners agree, by the way, and thanks as always for what you do. You're welcome.
You're welcome.
Lorton went so far as to say that he'd like to see Valve support a similar show. So my question is this: if Valve came out sponsoring a show similar to what The Glimpse does, who would you like to see staff it? Assuming they had the astoundingly bad taste not to hire you all, of course. Fair. While you're thinking about this question, I'll remind our listeners, if you want to ask us questions and play Dota with us, and actually, we forgot we were going to mention this, but we are going to have, last year we did this. God, this is such a terrible, terrible time to do this.
Don't even say it. Just save it for the next episode, dude.
Okay, fine. All right. While you're thinking about that, I'll remind our listeners, if you want to ask us questions and play Dota with us, join our Discord. You can find the link at glimpsepod.com. Remember to follow Lorton on Twitter at SharkButler. You'll see some graphs. If you can follow me on Twitter at OmegaManDota, you'll see some witty commentary. Thanks to Jason Bates, our audio engineer. He's on Twitter at Buttered Toast. He occasionally tweets things that are very self-affirming and positive attitude stuff. You're not going to get that from me and Lorton. All right, Lorton, who would you want to see staff a Valve-sponsored Glimpse show other than us?
Dude, I gotta be honest. It is the pair that cast I believe it was the lower bracket finals. No, it couldn't have been. Anyway, it was one of my favorite casting duos from this TI. It was Trent. It's Lyrical and Trent. I feel like you need a storyteller, and then you need someone who understands the game of Dota. And both of those guys are statistically sophisticated enough, and plus they have excellent broadcast chops. I would love to see Lyrical and Trent on that show with occasional appearances from someone like Nahaz.
Interesting choice. I thought you'd go a little more stat dry. I thought you were going to say like Knoxville. But I like it. I think that I would listen to it. I mean,
I feel like if Knoxville wanted to do TV, he would do TV.
Fair. He does do TV sometimes, sort of.
Yeah.
On TI. But anyways.
Right. On camera talent? No.
Until next time, this is Aden Richards. I almost said it wrong. Back you go.